What happens when the person you trusted most, your own sister, turns the entire family against you, and no one stops to ask why? Before we dive into this unbelievable true story, make sure you smash that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to Channel Name, so you never miss the next explosive revelation. It starts under studio lights so bright they make every emotion impossible to hide. The audience is silent, not because they were told to be, but because they can feel the tension simmering like electricity. The host sits across from her, leaning forward, elbows on the sleek black table, voice low as if afraid to disturb a fragile truth. So, 13 years, the host says. 13 years cut off from your own family, and you're telling us it all started with your sister? She nods once, slowly. The sound of air moving through the audience is almost audible, like everyone just held their breath at the same time. Her fingers tighten around the glass of water. It started with a lie, she says. One lie, and it spread like poison. The camera zooms in, jawline trembling, eyes brimming with emotion, not dramatic tears, but the kind that come from holding pain for too long. I remember the exact moment, she continues. The morning everything changed. My phone buzzed non-stop. 23 missed calls from my mother, my brother, my aunt, even cousins who never call. She breathes in, shaky. I thought someone had died. The host tilts his head, but instead they were calling to accuse you? She laughs. Not a happy laugh, a broken one. Accuse me of betraying my sister, of destroying her marriage, of planning it. Her hands spread in disbelief. I didn't even know she thought that. A ripple of shock moves through the studio. One woman in the front row covers her mouth, eyes wide. The host leans in. What did your sister say you did? There's a long pause. A cinematic moment where she stares at the table, gathering the courage to speak a truth that clearly still tastes like blood. She said I slept with her husband. Gasps explode across the audience like someone dropped a match into gasoline. Even the crew members behind the cameras shift, startled. The host blinks twice, stunned into silence before he manages to speak again. That's a serious accusation. It was a lie, she says, voice cracking. A disgusting lie. And she knew it. She knew the moment she said it, our family would take her side because she'd always played the hero, the victim, the angel everyone wanted to protect. She exhales, trembling. And I was always the strong one, the one who never needed help, the one they assumed could handle anything. So they believed her, the host says. They didn't even ask if it was true. Her eyes lift, glistening. Not one person asked me. Not one. The room goes still. There's something haunting in her voice. Something that makes even the audience sit with the discomfort of imagining their own loved ones turning their backs without hesitation. She continues. I tried calling my mother first. She didn't answer. My father blocked me. My brother texted, "Don't ever contact us again." And then, she swallows hard. Then my mother finally called back, not to ask if I was okay, not to hear my side. She called to scream. The sound of a heartbeat thuds through the studio speakers, a low cinematic rumble added by production to match the gravity of her words. I kept saying, "Mom, please calm down, let me speak, just let me explain." But she wouldn't. She hung up after telling me she never wanted to see me again. The host's eyes darken with sympathy. And this was all based on your sister's story, no proof, no conversation. No proof, she repeats, because there wasn't any, because nothing happened. The lights dim slightly, shifting the mood. She inhales sharply. And then, the silence started. The kind of silence that crushes you. Birthdays, holidays, weddings, every event went on without me. I became a ghost. They sent photos to each other in a family group chat I wasn't in anymore. For 13 years, I didn't exist. The audience murmurs, emotional. Someone sniffles, maybe trying not to cry. The host whispers, "What do you think made your sister lie?" Her jaw tightens. Jealousy, fear, insecurity. Maybe she needed someone to blame for her failing marriage. Maybe she hated that people liked me. Maybe she wanted attention. Honestly, I still don't know. She looks up, voice soft but deadly honest. But I do know she cost me 13 years of my life. The host sits back, stunned. And yet, you agreed to come here today. You agreed to talk. She nods. Because for the first time in 13 years, she reached out. She wants to meet. She wants to talk. Her lips tremble. She says she has something to confess. The audience erupts, gasps, whispers, someone shouting, "What?" The host raises a hand. "And you're planning to meet her after everything she did?" "I have to," she says. "Not for her. For me." The studio air feels heavier than before, charged with anticipation that clings to every surface. Lights humming, cameras drifting closer, audience leaning forward as if gravity itself is pulling them toward her unfolding truth. The host exhales slowly, steadying himself. "When your sister said she wasn't the only one involved, who did you think she meant?" She shakes her head, eyes narrowing with confusion and lingering fear. "I didn't know. I still don't. But when she said it, her voice was shaking. My sister never shakes." She gives a bitter smirk, like someone recalling an old wound they learned to stop touching. She always wanted control, always wanted to be the center of attention. But that message, it sounded like someone pushed her. The host leans closer. "What exactly did she say in that message?" She wrote, "We need to talk. I can't carry this alone anymore. I wasn't the only one." Her voice breaks at the edges, the weight of 13 stolen years crushing every syllable. "I read it 15 times. Then I put my phone down and walked around my apartment for hours because I couldn't breathe." The audience murmurs, completely hooked. One man whispers, "Who else could it be?" But the room hushes him immediately. The host studies her face. "So you agreed to meet her?" "I said yes. We're supposed to meet tomorrow." She wets her lips nervously. "But before I face her, I needed to speak the truth publicly. I needed to reclaim my voice before she tries to rewrite the story again." The host nods. "And we're grateful you chose to do it here." A small smile flickers across her face, grateful but fragile. "Thank you." Then he asks, softly but firmly, "Before we get to what may happen tomorrow, take us back. Take us to the moment your sister confronted you, the moment this accusation was born." Her eyes drift somewhere distant, the memory pulling her backward. "It happened at a family barbecue," she begins. "Everyone was there, cousins chasing kids through the yard, my mother fussing over the grill, my dad pretending he knew how to fix the outdoor lights. And my sister, she was pacing. The lighting on set shifts slightly, a dim golden tone washing over her like the glow of late afternoon sun. The audience can almost see it, the backyard, the laughter, the smell of smoke and charcoal. I didn't notice anything was wrong until her husband walked past me without speaking. Normally he was kind, polite. But that day, his eyes were red. He looked like he hadn't slept." The host raises a brow. "Did you think something was going on between them?" "I thought they were arguing," she says. "They always argued. I had no idea she was about to use me as a weapon." She inhales sharply. "My sister walked toward me, stiff, jaw clenched. I remember thinking she looked dangerous, not angry, dangerous." Her eyes glaze with memory. She said, "Can we talk?" And before I could answer, she grabbed my arm so hard, her nails dug in. The audience bristles. "She dragged me behind the shed. No one could see us." Her voice lowers, trembling. "Her face was twisted. I've never seen hate like that, not even in movies. The host whispers. What did she say? She said, I know what you did. The room freezes. I said, what are you talking about? She leaned in so close I could smell the wine on her breath, and she whispered, you slept with him. Even though the audience already knows the accusation, hearing it again, spoken quietly, intimately, like a poisoning, makes the entire room recoil. She continues, voice shaking. I laughed at first, not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. I said, what? Are you out of your mind? And she slapped me. A wave of shock sweeps the crowd. Someone yells, oh my God! She slapped me like she had been waiting to do it for years. And when I looked at her, I could see something wild in her eyes, like she truly believed her own lie. Or needed to. The host leans in. Did anyone see? No, she says. And that was the problem. It was her word against mine, her tears against my confusion, her story against my silence. She grips her hands tightly. She stormed back to the yard screaming that I was a homewrecker, screaming that I ruined her marriage. What did the family do? The host asks, though he already knows. Everyone knows. They rushed to her. They hugged her. They surrounded her like she was the victim of some terrible betrayal. She pauses, voice cracking with remembered agony. No one came to me. No one asked if it was true. They just looked at me, like I was dirty. The audience reacts loudly, angry, heartbroken, outraged. I tried to speak, she says, voice trembling. I kept saying, this isn't true. Please listen to me. But my father shouted, enough. My mother told me she was ashamed of me. My brother called me disgusting. A tear slips down her cheek. Everyone believed her. Everyone. The host swallows hard. And her husband? He didn't say anything, she whispers. The studio feels colder now, as if the temperature drops with every truth she unearths. The host shifts in his chair, eyes narrowing with a mix of dread and curiosity. The camera glides closer, capturing the tremor in her breath, the slight tightening of her jaw, the way her fingers twist together like she's bracing for impact. Before you meet her tomorrow, the host says softly, we need to talk about something. Something that, well, people are wondering. She lifts her head, bracing. What? He takes a slow breath. Did anything happen after that day? Any attempts from your family to reach out? Any message, any whisper, any sign that someone doubted your sister's story? She lets out a humorless laugh, a sound so empty the audience flinches. You want to know the truth? For the first 5 years, nothing. Silence so loud it felt physical. The lights dim slightly, casting long shadows across the set. I would send messages, she continues. Not angry ones. Just, I'm here if you're ready to talk. Can we meet? Please give me a chance to explain. My mother never opened them. My father blocked me a second time after I tried calling from a new number. My brother sent one response. Stop trying to fix what you broke. And after that, nothing. A hush falls over the audience. Someone sniffles. Another squeezes their partner's hand. The host leans in. And your sister? She never said a word. Not to me. Not to anyone who'd tell me. She kept the lie alive. She nurtured it. Fed it. She made herself a victim so thoroughly that people began to forget there was ever another side. The host tilts his head. But something changed eventually. Yes, she whispers. Something changed. She wipes her palms on her jeans, anxiety tightening her shoulders. It was 11 years after the accusation. I was working late one night when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I ignored it. It buzzed again and again. Her voice drops. Finally, I picked up, and it was him. The audience gasps. The shift is immediate. Shock, outrage, curiosity all slicing through the room. The host's eyebrows shoot up. Her husband? Yes. Her voice trembles despite her attempt to stay composed. I hadn't heard his voice in over a decade. The moment he said my name, I felt sick. The studio is silent. 10 seconds. 15. Every breath held. What did he want? The host asks. He said he needed to talk. He sounded scared. Not nervous. Scared. She inhales. I asked him what he wanted, and he said, I'm sorry. Just like that. Out of nowhere. The audience erupts in whispers, like a wave crashing across the rows. The host steadies himself. Did he explain? He tried. Her eyes cloud over like stormed glass. He said he shouldn't have stayed quiet, that he regretted everything, that the truth was more complicated than I knew. She swallows hard. And then he hung up. Just hung up. The host frowns deeply. Did you call him back? He never answered again. She shakes her head slowly. And a month later, I found out he moved overseas, changed his number, disappeared. The host's voice turns dark with suspicion. So he contacts you after 11 years to say he's sorry, then vanishes? Yes. She looks down at her hands, voice soft but sharp. I didn't know what to do with that. It felt like someone dropped a brick on my chest and walked away. The host taps his pen against the table. And now your sister wants to meet. 13 years later. She nods. Which means either she's lying again, or everything is about to fall apart for her. The audience murmurs, shifting restlessly. The host asks, What are you most afraid she'll say tomorrow? Her voice lowers. That she wasn't lying. A collective gasp. The host stiffens. But you didn't. I know I didn't, she says sharply, her voice slicing the tension like glass. But trauma messes with your mind. When you're told you're guilty long enough, sometimes you start questioning everything, even your own memory. She rubs her temples. I hate that her lie burrowed that deep. The host waits, giving her space. She then whispers, But I'm also afraid she'll tell me the truth, because the truth might be worse. How? The host asks. She lifts her eyes, haunted, raw, full of old shadows. Because what if the lie wasn't hers alone? What if someone else, someone in my family, wanted me gone? The room erupts into stunned whispers. The host's tone shifts into something more serious, almost investigative. What makes you think that? Her breath trembles. Because 2 years ago, I ran into my cousin at a grocery store, someone who wasn't close to the core family drama. And when she saw me, her face went white. She pulled me aside and whispered, I always wondered why they chose you. The audience freezes. The host's voice drops. Chose? She realized what she said immediately. She tried to walk it back, but I grabbed her arm and said, What do you mean chose? She panicked. Said she didn't know. Said she shouldn't toll. The studio is darker than before. Lights low, shadows long, the kind of atmosphere reserved for finales that change everything. The host sits still, almost reverent, as she returns to her seat after a brief off-camera reset. Her eyes are red-rimmed, not from fresh tears, but from the weight of everything she's been forced to remember. The audience is silent, bracing for the final chapter. The host leans forward, hands clasped. We know tomorrow is the day you meet your sister, but before we close, there's something you haven't shared yet. She nods slowly. Yes. Her voice is barely above a whisper. There's something that happened last night. A ripple goes through the audience, whispers, gasps, tension crackling like static electricity. The host's brows rise. Last night? What happened? She inhales shakily. I got another message, from a number I didn't recognize. She opens her phone, staring at the screen as if the message is still burning there. At first I thought it was spam. Then I opened it. What did it say? Her lips tighten. It said, "She's not the only one who needs to confess." The host freezes. The audience goes dead silent. She continues, voice trembling. And then another message came through. Just one sentence. Be careful who you trust tomorrow. A collective shudder ripples across the studio. People glance at each other, unsure whether to be horrified or desperate for more. The host looks shaken. Do you think it was from someone in your family? I don't know, she whispers. But whoever it was, they knew about the meeting. The host takes a slow breath. And this was anonymous? No name, no clue? She shakes her head. Nothing, but the tone. It felt like someone who wasn't warning me for my sister's sake. It felt like a warning for mine. The camera zooms in slowly, catching the fear flickering in her eyes. The host taps the table lightly, grounding the moment. Before we talk about tomorrow, tell us this. If your sister admits she lied, if she confesses everything, will it be enough? She looks down, twisting her fingers together. There is no version of tomorrow where I walk out the same person who walked in. Her voice sharpens. If she tells me the truth, I get closure. If she lies again, I get confirmation. But either way, I'm done being afraid of the ghost of who my family wanted me to be. The audience hums with emotional agreement. Several people nodding, wiping tears, leaning forward as if they're rooting for her from inside their own wounds. The host softens his voice. Do you want them back? After everything? There's a long pause, one that seems to stretch out like a lifetime. Once, she whispers. Yes. I begged for it. I cried for it. I dreamed of it. But now? She looks up and there is strength in her eyes that wasn't there before. Now I want peace more than I want people who thrive on pain. The audience breaks into applause, not loud but heartfelt, the kind that rises slowly like they're careful not to overwhelm her. She exhales, a weight lifting from her shoulders. But then, the host raises a hand. We've received something backstage. She stiffens. The audience leans forward. The host continues carefully. Our producers just handed me this. He holds up a sleek black tablet. It's a message sent to the show's official email address less than an hour ago. And it appears to be from your sister. The air disappears from the room. Her mouth drops open slightly. My sister? She emailed the show? Yes, the host says gravely. And she gave us permission to read it on air. A murmur ripples through the studio, a mix of shock, curiosity, dread. Do you want us to read it? The host asks gently. Her eyes close for a moment. When she opens them, they shine with equal parts fear and courage. Yes, read it. The host looks down at the tablet, hesitates, then reads. I know she is there. I know she is telling the truth. I want everyone to know I lied, but I wasn't alone. I was manipulated. I was threatened. And I was too weak to stand up to it. I need to talk to her tomorrow. I'm sorry for everything. Gasps break across the audience like a series of explosions. Her body trembles, hands covering her mouth. Tears spill, real, stunned, disbelieving tears. The host watches her with a mixture of sympathy and horror, but he isn't done. There's one more sentence, he says quietly. She looks at him with wide, terrified eyes. The host reads the final line. Please tell her that Dad needs to be there too. The studio erupts, shouts, outrage, confusion, disbelief. The sound swells like a wave crashing against rock. Her entire body freezes. My father, she whispers. Why would he need to be there? The host gently sets the tablet down. We don't know, but it sounds like your sister believes he has something to tell you. Her face drains of color. The weight of 13 years slams into her all over again, but differently now, sharper, deeper, edged with a new, terrifying clarity. What do